So like, I could end things here, it would be, it'd be a fine video length, all that stuff. But we still got ground to cover. I'm gonna let an old friend take this one, so take it away, Mr. Shovelware.
Hello, I'm Mr. Shovelware. I'm pretty much just JeffCompass, but I talk specifically about bad games. In the original Pac Man World 2, it's fine. But the GBA version is so bad that I cannot believe it exists.
So yeah, this is fairly typical of games in this era. They always, and I mean always, would get GBA ports. Developers would walk to the literal end of the earth to produce a Game Boy Advance version of the game. They put everything on here. The first Pac Man World got a GBA version, so I guess it only made sense for the developers to ship out a World 2 port. Weirdly enough though, this game came out in 2005, 3 years after the console version and close to Pac Man World 3. My only guess for this is that they saw Pac Man World 3 would be getting versions on every console besides the GBA, even getting a DS port, so they just kind of panicked and threw Pac Man World 2 on here to have something for like the holidays, and it wasn't super uncommon for GBA ports to come out later rather than sooner. Jet Set Radio Advanced was the same sort of thing. So here it is. Here's Pac Man World 2 on GBA.
Oh god, that is some compressed audio, and I thought the at-game Sega Genesis was bad.
Okay, look, I know it's a GBA game. I get it, okay? I get it. It doesn't change the fact that the music in this game literally makes me want to die. The story is still here using compressed screen caps and captions from the console version, which is fair enough. Alright, enough messing around. Let's see how it plays. Off the bat, we see that Pac Village has been recreated. Except you can't go through the doors, which pisses me off because it looks like you can. Oh, come on! I'm gonna be honest, they probably could have just cut this whole level. Like, I think they were just trying to be really faithful to the console version, but if you really think about it, it has no reason to exist here. At least with the console version, you had areas to go to, you have some NPCs, and a lot more to collect. You even have some mini tutorials, such as eating ghosts. But here, there's like 3 fruits and nothing else. All the moves are here. You can butt bounce and rev roll, ledge grab, you can even kick flip, although to be honest, I don't remember many instances where you really do this. One thing that sucks is that while the ghosts are present, you don't get that gratifying pause when you eat one. This kind of trips me up after playing the console version, honestly, because I keep expecting a pause. Some consistency would have gone a long way. Pac Man World 2 has a password system. You get one after each level. It's kind of weird because the password screen is missing a bunch of the alphabet. I really hate the tutorial level, actually. I found it harder than a lot of the levels in this game, if I'm being honest. They have all these signs to teach you the game, which, you know what, fair enough. The problem is, though, if you backtrack past it, which you will have to, oftentimes it forces you to read the text box again, even if it's now irrelevant. This reminds me of the Ben 10 game on Hyperscan. It's only a problem in this level mainly, but I spent like an hour trying to beat this level, so it's probably just fresh on the mind. Sometimes you can literally die and still read the text box, which feels like a slap in the face. Jerks. I will say graphically, this game looks pretty good. The sprite work is nice, and the backgrounds are nice and colorful. It's hard to judge what you can jump on and what you can't, though.
That's not a platform?
Like, this is debatable, I guess. I asked Twitter and Discord because I was honestly unsure if I had the right to be mad about this. Some people pointed out that even if it looks like a platform, you should be able to make the next jump. And some said they would distinguish it as a foreground object, although a lot of people did agree with me, at least in some capacity. I personally would die here frequently, even when I knew it wasn't a platform. I just had this, like, intuition to do it. And I think it's because it's bold and nothing else is, besides, like, the foreground, as I mentioned. But regardless of this instance, because this is a 2.5D type of game, there are platforms that you legitimately will fail and fail and fail to jump on. It's like that Indiana Jones NES game. Give me a damn break. That perception, no way around it, is a huge issue in Pac Man World 2. Oftentimes, it'll look like you can make jumps you can't. Sometimes you phase through fruits. It's honestly really frustrating, but what makes all of this so much worse is the perplexingly bad controls. Jumps just don't feel very good. It often feels like you barely make them. You can get a little more height with the butt bounce, but for some reason, I was never able to string these together very well, so I didn't want to always use it. If you don't time it perfectly, Pac-Man just kind of does a rolling animation instead. I don't know, guys, the game design is just really irritating. At one point, I got to the end of a section, but didn't know what to do. The only thing drawing the player's attention at this point is a giant shiny button, so I hit it to spawn a lemon. I thought hitting the box that unlocks with this lemon, and yes, these boxes returned from the console game, would be what I needed to do to continue. So I backtrack all the way back with some very peculiar jumps to get that stupid lemon. Then we backtrack again to get back to the lemon box. It's only a goddamn orange. So it turns out you're supposed to avoid all of that and just go right. Now tell me, is that a trap or what? Why wouldn't the player assume to just hit the shiny button? Up to this point, it's not established that you can just go right to continue. Why'd they have to trick me?
Why not have a sign or something that just points right? Why make it a trick? This is one of those things that's like arguably my fault. But still, there was a bouncy pad, and getting that lemon was not easy.
It's not like this is the console games where you get a token. Here, you have even less reason to collect stuff, unless you want to do it for score. I'm sorry, grand score. Excuse me, your royal highness. Some of the jumps that this game wants you to make are excruciating. These ramps come from hell. They really don't make any sense. The game wants you to butt bounce down them, which can work with enough trial and error, but as I said earlier, I think sometimes the issue is you just don't get a butt bounce when you need one, and instead go into the rolling animation. The rolling animation can actually happen at the edge of cliffs too sometimes, meaning you just outright die. So it's not an isolated incident either. The only consistent way I was able to make it over was tiptoeing to the edge and rev rolling, but with that, you're often just going to get too much speed and overshoot it. There's no way around it. You're going to lose your lives and game over in this game. One good thing is that the checkpoints are extremely plentiful. When I mean plentiful, I mean every platform after you die. While this is good in concept, sometimes you get placed on the very edge of a platform.
Meaning if you're like holding a direction right after you die, like because you want another chance, forget it, you're dead.
I think what's funny is the treetops level right after is a ton easier than the literal tutorial level. And looking at this, it's again a pretty faithful recreation of the console game. In fact, the whole game is, but funnily enough, they cut the whole water section out. You know what, I'm actually going to list that as a positive change. Congrats, you got something Pac Man World 2 on GBA. The bosses, true to the console version, are really hard. The bouncy pads really don't do enough for you in terms of getting height, since your horizontal distance peaks pretty early. Sometimes, even if you do get a butt bounce on the damn guy, it doesn't do anything. I guess that's also true to the console version. So things like eating ghosts and getting token, those are cut. Cut those out, we can't have those. But stupid things like bad hitboxes, yeah, keep those in, we need that. The time trials from the console version return, but this time they're really hard to avoid. I found myself always accidentally grabbing them, and it was kind of an obstacle to avoid not doing them. Ooh! Besides all that, this game really just lacks the variety and substance that Pac Man World 2 on console had. Every level is basically the same, with some minor changes in obstacles and enemy designs. I'll be honest, there's pretty much nothing of value in this game besides the cute graphics, so yeah, I don't recommend this one. Honestly, it has so little to do with Pac Man World 2 that it probably shouldn't have even been in this video. It just shares the name and that's it.
Pac Man World 2 on GBA is like one of the most worthless, bad games that I have ever played in my life. Okay, it's not that bad. I'm kind of over-exaggerating. It's still probably like Sneakers or Sonic 06 or something, but anyways, I'm gonna let this go back to JeffCompass to conclude it. Thanks for having me, asshole.